Easy E, how are we?
Sean, hey, what's happening?
It's finally here. It's Dublin Marathon Week for the first time since 2019. I can't believe it's taken so long, but yet this year has gone by so fast. I don't know what to make of it, but here we are. It's Marathon Week. If you're trying to get into your training now, you're definitely goosed. It's the couple of light runs and stuff, but more importantly is what you do outside that to try and keep yourself sharp. But as well as that, it's nutrition side. It's like, you don't know if you've done enough or not. The fitness thing is done. You're not making any ups and downs in that unless you go out and do something silly and get injured. It's the whole nutrition stuff. So for this episode of the podcast, I'm taking a step back and ask you a couple of nutrition questions of carb loading, because back in the day, carb loading for me just meant I'll have a big ass lasagna the night before the marathon, or a big pasta, bit of carbonara, throw a bit of chicken and bacon, and that was it. I did one big meal, and all of a sudden my carbs were loaded in the body, and I was good to go for the marathon. And realistically, I was not.
I'm just more annoyed that you said if you're starting your training this week, you're a goose. Fuck you, Sean.
With that jab, we won't go into that one anymore, because we're just going to hit the intro music, go straight to this week's episode of the Any Given Day podcast. Let's go. I was going to mention the whole we're going to have a bonus episode on Thursday, so I'll leave that part to the end as a surprise. Instead, big man, carb loading. That's going to be the buzzword of the week. Everyone's going to be talking about carb loading. Everyone has their own opinions of carb loading. Like I said at the start of the podcast, I used to assume back in the day I was wrong about many things. One of them was definitely carb loading, was just having that big carb loaded meal on the day before and you'd be grand and it'll have all the benefits of just loading in one go. But I suppose it's like putting a pizza in the oven at 200 degrees and be like, sure, look, if you lash it in faster up to 350, you'd be done faster, right? There's a process to this. So what is the process? Where should people start? Should people be starting Monday, or do you wait till Thursday, Friday for this whole carb loading thing?
Okay, before we get into talking about carb loading, like running, like anything else, can be very person specific. Okay. And it can be very different between the male athlete and the female athlete. And again, as we get into what is carb loading and how many grams of extra glycogen we hold, men can double down on the extras. Women have to really eat a hell of a lot more to try to get the same benefits that guys do out of carb loading. And that's just a caveat from the start. So if people are listening to it, don't take it as gospel for everyone. There is kind of the average weight of 77 to 80 kilos that most people will base a carb loading diet off, because that's the range that most people tend to be into. But carb loading is basically trying to build up your stores of energy in the build up to an endurance race, and endurance being anything over 90 minutes. They reckon that the natural stores of glycogen. So when we break down carbs, obviously it turns to glycogen and that sugars and stuff, and that's what we use for energy. So under 90 minutes, you shouldn't really need to be like general exercise, a football match or a bit of gym and stuff. You don't really need to be carb loading. It's when you go through that 90 minutes, they say, through that hour and a half. And again, depending on heart rate as well, some people might never reach a stage where they need extra. But carb loading is like, it's supposed to give you more reserves to reduce fatigue. So it's when you eat a high amount of carbohydrates, and as well at the same time you scale back your activity, which is the important thing. So me carb loading this week, probably not beneficial, because I haven't been doing the same as all these other good folks have been doing, 20 weeks of consistent high volumes of activity. Then when the body starts seeing those, I'd say the last 2 to 3 days, let's go from Thursday to Sunday, most people are going to really scale it back. Like that's when your body will be like, whoa, what's going on? We've been storing all this because you've been doing this to me every day. Yeah. And now I don't need to use it, but we'll keep it anyway. So there's a finite time that you want to keep that as well. And that's where, when do you start? When do you finish? Again, it's person specific, but they say 1 to 3 days usually is the optimum.
And is
anything
there a
over 4 days?
Huh? Is it a gradual increase over 1 to 3 days? Or is it just, I know you're going to get that into the second now, but is that the person dependent as well?
Person dependent as well. It's like, for me, it's you should be eating plenty of carbs anyway if you're doing quite a volume of endurance training. for me, it's the case of you step down the training and you increase a little. So it's not too massive. We're talking an extra slice of bread in this meal, an extra egg, and that, like we're adding in an extra bit of fruit full of carb, like it's just adding in that little bit extra that makes you feel, I'm kind of full now. It's the best way to describe it, and again, person specific. That's what it feels like to me. It's not major. Like if people have been starving themselves running marathons, they're gonna find themselves in a world of hurt if they go to a 4,000 calorie day on a carb load. And so, to put a metric on it, you kind of want to be going. I'll get into the metrics of it. I have them written down here. It's weight, grams of carbs per kilos. But we'll go back to basics. I know you know a little bit. So to break it down for people who are probably listening for the first time, like, what are carbohydrates? Like, they are starches, sugars, and they're the body's main energy source. You have complex carbs, which would be your grains or your starchy vegetables, such as potatoes. You have simple carbs, which are fruits and milks. And then obviously you have your sweeties. The sweets are just carb. So they are sugar, pretty much like foods made from sugar themselves. So during digestion, your body will break down a carb and they will turn that, it'll turn it into a sugar, essentially. It enters your bloodstream and then it's transferred to individual cells. And then that sugar is stored in your liver and muscles as glycogen. And that is your energy source. So basically what we are trying to do is increase our stores. You want to build up the reserves. And that's where we're getting into. We reduce the load on the body. We increase the food. And the two should marry up to kind of give you these increased storage. So your muscles normally store only small amounts. And again, it's usually to support you up to 90 minutes. That would... Again, 90 minutes is not the average for everyone, Sean. It could be 87 for one person. It could be 4 hours for another, but they reckon our body would naturally store enough to get us through 90 minutes of exercise, essentially. At which point your muscles may run out of glycogen. And that's when you start to feel fatigue. And that's where the wall, phrases like this start to come in. And that's what it is. The body is starting to run out of glycogen. You're starting to feel fatigue. You're starting to get niggles because muscles aren't firing as they should because they're out of the energy. And then all of a sudden you're into the wall and your performance will greatly suffer at that stage. And that's what people are trying to avoid. They're trying to avoid that stage that fatigue sets in. And that's why carb loading has become what it is, or this theory for athletes. And it's everyone's trying to get the edge. They're all wearing the Alpha Flies, they're all wearing this. But food and fuel, like, you don't put petrol into a diesel car, and people are kind of taking that kind of attitude towards carb loading. Is why would you not give yourself this chance at the extra 10% or the extra 4 kilometers before that fatigue starts to say, I'm making these stats up. It could mean the difference for everyone, or it could mean make no difference for anyone, but there is some science put into the background of the storage of glycogen, and take what you want from that, I suppose, is probably the best way to do this. So, but they say, like, carb loading, we're into the week before, and it is only high endurance activities. Like, you wouldn't be doing this for your football matches and stuff. And 1 to 3 days before the event, you just want to increase your carb intake. So this is where the numbers are coming down. So you want to be taking in 8 to 12 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight. So let's say it's 10 and you're 90 kilos. You need to be eating 900 grams.
900 grams?
Yeah.
What's that look like on like, how many spuds is that?
That's
my magic system.
We're talking a lot of food.
Over the course of 3 days.
I have a sample menu. It's not necessarily the volume of, like, you could eat a packet of jellies and you could be on your way to a substantial amount of them grams. You could have a can of Coke. There's 36 grams. Do you know, like,
right.
We just
you want stuff that makes you, like, feel good without, like, if I have a ton of sugar, I'm not a sweet tooth. So I know, like, if I have a ton of sugars and sweets, or like if I overindulge at the expo and all the gels and stuff they offer you, I'll be on a buzz for days. Like, I'll struggle to sleep and all that night over it. So I suppose to find the right foods where you mightn't crash as much on a few extra potatoes.
Exactly. So that's where, like, we talked about your complex ones, your potatoes, your rices, your legumes, whereas this is just the sugar elements. And I'm more inclined to add in the extra piece of fruit, the pear, the this, which carry high volumes of carbs and sugars, but from a more natural source, I suppose. You mightn't placebo as well. Like if you eat a can of Coke and a packet of Percy Pigs, you might be bouncing off walls, but if you have 4 pears, you might be all right. You know, like the extra. So it's, and this is where it kind of gets complex. And anything that's said, always consult a nutrition. If you're going to try any of this, get in touch with a nutritionist doctor. Make sure you're okay to do all this kind of, because you are experimenting with food in volumes that your body might not necessarily have done before. So it is important to, if you're uncertain of anything, just go on YouTube like everyone else. No, as in, do consult a professional on it. But when you do that, so obviously we're talking about, let's say 90 kilos me of the 900 grams of carbs now on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's 3 days. That would be the maximum. Personally, that's probably too much for me. I just know by the feeling, I don't like that feeling of being lethargic. So it'll probably be 2 days and I probably won't reach all the way to 900. But when you're eating that much, you kind of have to scale back down on the other stuff. You know, your proteins will kind of come in with everything else, but your fats as well. You kind of want to scale them down because you're going to be taking on a lot of extra calories from the carbohydrates, because you want the glycogen. You don't want the extra.
Is it 4 grams of carbs is one calorie?
They say that they're
so you're is that right?
Yeah,
you're talking 225 extra calories, which isn't a lot. 225 calories, like it's 212 bars. Just when you say 900 grams of carbs, the word 900 just seems like a ton to me. But when you say it's only 225 calories, I'm like, actually, is that just one big spud extra?
No, it's not. I think it's 1 gram of carb is 4 calories.
I've got the other way around of it. 1 gram of carb is 4 calories. I've gone arse way. So it's the 4 times 900. So it's an extra 3,000 calories you're having in one day.
Well, no, your total. So you're
your total. Sorry. You would have had some carbs in already and stuff like that. But you're talking about okay, I'm with you now.
So like if you're normal, I'm not John, if you're normal eating day, like you're probably getting in your 5 grams per kilograms or 4 grams per kilograms. Again, person specific, goals specific. I'm naming numbers. It depends on what the person is doing. But because we've gone here, I will actually go through a sample day of a carb loading day. It's probably the best thing. There's a lot of grams. There's a lot of calories.
A lot of numbers being thrown out there.
I will call out some of these as like my tips and tricks for sneaking in the carbs,
right?
Without you actually thinking you're eating a lot of food. I'll call out the grams per carbs and I'll call out the calories. All right.
Cool.
So Sean, Thursday morning, we wake up. Beautiful day. We're going to have a glass of milk. It's going to give you around 18 grams of carbs and 125 calories. We're going to have a plain bagel, 52 grams of carbs, 260 calories. 2 scoops of peanut butter, 7 grams of carbs, 191 calories. Add in some banana and some honey. We've added in 35 with the honey and 27 grams of carbs with the banana. So there's, look, you're wondering about extras. And both of them add in another 250 calories as well. So breakfast alone, we're nearly up at 700 calories there.
Jeez.
And we've taken in just under 200 grams of carbs. It doesn't seem like a lot of food, though.
No, it doesn't seem like a lot of food at all. No.
Now, this is where we kind of branch away from the normal day. Morning snack. So we've just had breakfast and now it's morning snack time. So this is where people are probably like, oh, there's more. So morning snack. I have here like a crunchy raisin and almond cereal, something with fruities, a cereal. I've granola later, but it's just kind of give you the idea of the kind of grainy stuff you should be taking on board. A decent portion of that, a good old cupful, you're looking at 74 grams of carbs, 360 calories. If you have that with a glass of orange juice, you're going to add in 40 to 60 grams of carbs with a glass of orange juice, very high sugar.
Right.
And you'll add in 225 calories as well. Now we're into lunch. Milk chocolate. with reduced fat, because remember, we want to try reduce all the extra stuff. You're just trying to get the diet. So if you go for a milk chocolate, 46 grams of carbs. So no dairy milk or something, or whatever you're having, have a look at the back, 46 grams of carbs, 285 calories. Make 2 sandwiches.
2 sandwiches. Go to the chocolate bar.
4 slices of white bread. That's going to get you 49 grams of carbs, 266 calories. Chicken breast is good proteins, and I like chicken sandwiches, so therefore we had chicken. Lettuce, tomato, light mayonnaise.
Whoa. What are you doing with chicken?
Well, it goes in the sandwich now. We're building a sandwich. I'm just
but no, you're ruining the chicken by putting light mayo on it.
All right.
Scratch
barbecue sauce for Sean.
Yeah, now we're talking.
400 grams of carbs. But then like lettuce, tomato, mayo, and then if you want to have a scoop full of or a handful of, like tortilla chips, your Doritos, add a handful of them with your sandwich, 2 sandwiches, and get yourself some carrot sticks. About a couple of carrot sticks, you're adding in 10 grams, but they're light. You don't even notice them going down. The crisps you'll eat at, you won't notice them. The mayo is in there, tomato, the lettuce, the chicken, and then the chocolate. So when you think of a meal deal, the controversial meal deals, it's usually a drink, a bar, a sandwich, and crisps. I haven't really described too much more than that, except there's an extra sandwich. But when you break it down into people's average day, now again we've had breakfast, we've had morning snack, and now this is our lunch, and now we're up to, I think in the lunch I've just called out there, we are up to about 150 grams extra carbs, and calories wise we're looking at we're well into the 1,000 there. So it's a substantial one. So you digest that, Sean. You ready?
Right.
Afternoon snack.
Meal number 4. I haven't seen meals this big since The Rock went through his Hercules diet. Right, let's go.
So, but this is for an 80 kilo person.
Right.
This is the grams I've figured out. I've tried to keep it kind of similar to stuff I like to eat and what would make sense at the time. So, low fat yogurt, granola, good scoop of blueberries, and again, get yourself another juice, an apple juice or an orange juice or a cranberry juice. Granola, huge in the calories and the carbs. The fruit yogurt will carry a good chunk of carbs as well, if you can get a good scoop of that yogurt in. Blueberries, just really good antioxidants and stuff as well. But in a good cup, like a good handful of blueberries, you can get anywhere from 15 to 25 grams of carbs and 83 calories. And then your juices, your fruit juices laced with sugar, you'll get your 40 to 50 grams of carbs again. But like a good bottle of apple juice, like a Lipton iced tea. So, a juice, like a big bottle of juice. I'm trying to just like, everyone's like, oh yeah, I'll have a little glass of orange juice. I'm like, no, get the carton of fruits and start drinking it. So
big carton of juice.
I'm trying to just scale it up a little bit because it is carb loading. And so dinner time, you ready?
Shoot.
I went with salmon because we had chicken for lunch. So I'm trying to just show people that, we can just add in someone like the salmon's going to carry the omegas. Omegas carry anti-inflammatories. Based on what we're about to be doing, it's probably good to have some of them in the system.
Okay.
A little bread roll. The little ones you usually get with soups at weddings. Something to have on the side. Bit of butter. Butter will carry the fats, so try have low fat butter, but the bread is good. Again, have another glass of milk if you can. Then have a salad with it because we've been heavy on everything else, really.
Right.
So I went with a salad option with the salmon. So again, lettuce, peppers, chop up some apple. Apple carries a lot of carbs. You can go with, when you go to Aldi and you get fruit and nut bags where it's like dried cranberries and everything else and fruit, walnuts. They're going to carry some fats, but we need some fats in as well. Like a handful of them onto your little mixed salad and adds in some cheese and dressing. And then you have a salad, the dressings, the fruits, the nuts, the glass of milk, the white roll. The white roll is probably your most complex carb of the whole thing. And that's what you're adding in, and then you're just eating a salad because we've eaten a lot, and I was like, oh, we probably need, and that's why you're using the fruits because they're carrying your peppers and stuff. You're carrying the carbs there, and it's somewhat lighter. Was my thought process, but again, that dinner alone, we are adding in probably about another 150 to 200 grams of carbs, so we're nearly up at the 800 already, and that's before we get to our evening snack.
Meal 6 of the day.
Meal number 6. Go to your kitchen, get some lovely strawberries, chop them. You want to go, a good cup size of strawberries, and just have a little cup of strawberries while you're watching the show, and open up a packet of jellies and have yourself about 4 or 5 jellies in the evening. Get in the pure sugars then late thing at night. It's amazing. Like a cup of strawberries it'll give you 11 grams of carbs and 46 calories, or you can have about 5 to 10 sweets, and that'll give you 416 calories and 78 grams of carbs.
My God.
So the only thing that would send you bouncing off the wall is the sweets at the end, Sean, if you were to think about all these food in the day.
Agreed.
But carb wise, that day is 754 grams of carbs, 4,500 calories.
Ooh, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how many calories someone's having to then. Now, for full context on this episode of the podcast, you're the guy in nutrition qualification. I remember you, like, back in March, you probably scroll back through the Any Given Training Day Instagram, you'll see the post of all the nutrition stuff you gave me. I'm like, hey, Eric, this is a ton of food. You're going to need it over two marathons over 2 days, pretty much. I'm like, Eric, this is a lot of food. But to your credit, like, I had food elsewhere, but the equivalent of that food was gone in those 2 days. So I'm someone that doesn't. It's not that I don't know too much about nutrition. I kind of know what helps and works for me and stuff like that. But if you ask my better half, she'll tell me I chronically undereat. And that is an issue that I would have. Not an issue. Issue is the wrong word for that. But that's just something that I would be rightfully accused of. Is chronically undereating. So to me, that's a lot of food and calories. But like you said, you put it all together and why it works and why you have certain food at certain times. So to go back to someone who's listening to this podcast, you'd have those foods from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 2, can you break that down into like 3 or 5 tips for adding that food? I know you mentioned squeeze a little bit of honey or stuff like that to get extra calories in, or the sweets, something like that. Is there any little sneaky other tips, or are they all thrown in that 1 day diet?
Well, the 1 day diet, I just went with a sample that would make sense to me that I'd be able to stomach. Now people are probably listening to that and going, "Here, piggy." But the tips and tricks wise, I think 3 days out would probably be too much for me. I think 1.5 days, I'd probably be cracking into the latter stages of lunch, evening, snack, dinner, and then go through kind of a full day up until the dinner time out and an evening snack. Because especially, well, my last little tip is they are sample foods that I would like the night before. Try and avoid making your chili con carne or something with beans or stuff that's going to make you want to go to the toilet, loosen the stool. Like, you want to stay away from the high fibers. So just be careful on them. But I think 3 days, again, it comes down to performance. If this is your first time trialing it, just try it a day and a half before.
Right.
If you try it 3 days before and you get to the start line, you feel as big as a house and you're sluggish through 10K and that's all that's playing in your head, then you've done it wrong because you weren't meant to do it that way. Like, I know it's lastminute.com. We probably should have talked about this a few months ago to give people an idea so they can try it out.
Yeah,
but they didn't purchase my plan, so fuck them. So
it's late on a Sunday evening we're recording this, folks. It's just filters are gone.
I'm on an air ambulance for the next 4 days, so I'm getting my own food ready. So where was it going with that?
I don't know.
But yes,
a day and a half, 3 days. You're talking about the difference.
3 days as a maximum. After that, then we start storing that glycogen as fat. You know, we're starting to convert it to other stuff. But again, it's in these 3 days where I wouldn't be shutting up shop totally on my running. It's saying a reduced load. So, you know, getting in a 30-minute isn't going to be nothing for someone who's about to take on a marathon. And you might disagree, John, but a 30-minute shakeout or a 20-minute shakeout is just still
keep you sharp.
Within reason.
Depends on what you're doing that week. I think something sharp. I'll probably do something on a Thursday or Friday. I definitely one of those days. If not, then I'd definitely do some sort of long walk and mobility drill session or something on Saturday rather than just sit around all day. But definitely something to keep moving. Like I know that there's plans to do something on Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's it. Like if I do nothing for 4 or 5 days, I will personally feel sluggish. I suppose it's like knowing yourself. If you feel that 4 or 5 days, geez, it's only 4 or 5 days. I feel great. You feel great, and off you go. But I know I need to do for me personally a bit of movement. If I don't move, like if I don't gym train, even if I don't train in the gym for a week or so, for whatever reason, I feel stiff and sore, you know. I feel like it's lubricant to keep me going. The last thing I want to do is starting line is have a ton of food without loosening it out and maybe feel a bit sluggish, but at the same time feel like not as sharp because I haven't been moving the body over the 4 or 5 days, whatever it is beforehand. And
that's when it comes with the caveat. Like I know for me, I could eat all that food, no problem. I'd have to probably get a light 5K in every day as well, though. You know, I'd have to get the body using some of that energy that's in there as well, you know. So and then like you said, Saturday I'll probably go for a walk. I'll probably have a long stretch on the walk every couple of just, you know, keep the body moving. But like carb loading, we'll get back to tips and tricks. I remember that part of the question, but like there's so many factors. And like, how fit are you? Like, do I need to carb load? No. I'm gonna probably struggle no matter what through 30K because the training.
It's not a miracle worker. I don't mean that to struggle at you, by the way. I just mean in general. It's like, I'm struggling for the last, I haven't done much training and stuff. But if I carb load, I'm gonna own this thing. I'm gonna deck them off in it.
Yes, it may reduce your fatigue, but reducing my fatigue from 25K to 26K is not going to make a big difference for me. But we spoke about you saying you're bad with your nutrition. You're at a stage now where you're looking to get certain times in races. When you get to that stage and you're putting in the work, then you are selling yourself short by not adding to your glycogen stores. Particularly when you're doing eco trails, 80Ks, you know, like it's when you go out there with just a packet of Haribo and a bottle of Lucozade and off you go, you know, you would want to make sure you've stored up over the last few days. And that's
the Haribo will be a rare bonus, pal.
But it's that fatigue stage you want to avoid. And it's, again, it depends on, like, there's so many other factors that depends, but one of them is definitely like how fit you are. Some may feel less fatigued and see an improvement in performance, but it's not effective for everyone, and that is a caveat with this kind of drill. It is not effective for everyone, and like there's so much else that can go wrong with it as well, in terms of you eat food you're not used to eating, and without getting into it again, we've always mentioned poo gate, but you don't want to be that person either. But like carb loading, you still will feel muscle fatigue. So when you get through 30K and you've been carb loading, you're like, oh no, my muscles are tired. This is like, you still feel tired. It's just, it helps with the energy that's there to get you like to that point, or maybe a bit further before you have to do the fight anyway. And as I said, like, men and women are different. For men, it will increase or can increase the levels of glycogen as much as 100%. So you can double the amount of stored glycogen with carb loading. Women may need to consume more calories than usual during carb loading to get the same benefits as men do. That is the unfortunate fact. And then, like, despite carb loading, and again we touched on it last week, on the race day itself, you still need to be replenishing. Ozzy rang me after the last one talking about, I should have really listened again, but he talked about the amount of calories the body can consume per hour anyway, while you're exercising, and we'll say 200. I could be wrong. I'm quoting Austin Doyle on that one. For me, it's grams of carbs. And they say between 40 and 60 grams of carbs, which is a gel or two, or a jelly, or whatever it is. What people think is they've had 6 gels. I should be able to do this. And then they start getting cramps and stuff. Why? Because they've lost a lot of salt, haven't replaced it. So there's a whole package you need to still do on the day to keep the machine as well oiled as you can until as far as you can before you just have to stick it out and cross the finish line. So carb loading will give you the energy. It should keep you going. You should get the onset of fatigue later. If you've managed your race well in terms of nutrition, it should go a little bit later till you get to that point where you might as well just cross the finish line at that stage, and that's the idea behind it. And it is for the endurance element of it,
So you, just because we're talking about race day now, there's 2 thoughts walk across my mind. One is to go back to the gels, and you're talking before, like even you touched on it last week, having the 1 every hour. But 2, just because we haven't really talked about solid foods on race day. Probably go back a year or so this podcast, and I set off too fast to the Thoroughbred Marathon because Dublin wasn't on, and I crashed and burned throughout the 30k going up hills that some lads shouted it was a downhill from here, and the mind was gone. But you caught up to me around 35k, you start shoving a banana down my throat. So is it just gels and stuff? You're all right today with carb loading or bananas or what would be your recommended nutrition strategy for a race day? Is it dependent? Let's say the person has been using gels, they have used gels to fast, because we've talked before about if they haven't used gels, probably doing the marathon itself may not be the best idea. You're probably best off sticking with jellies and other things. I would think, just because that gel doesn't agree with you, you're in for a rough morning. So you take the gels. What's the timeline you're talking about here?
My strategy, and I'll talk about me at 90.5 kilos with 2 kilos to go to my target. Right. Hopefully an 88 kilo man come Saturday morning. My strategy will be I'll have 500 ml to a litre on my back with an isotonic that will contain extra salt tabs in it because I sweat a lot. I'm going to lose a lot of salt. Every 2 kilometers, I'll be taking 3 to 4 sips off the Camelback. Good sips. That'll keep me hydrated. The salts should keep coming in regularly. The body should be processing them as regularly as it can. And at the same time intervals, because the pace hopefully will be the same.
Right.
Every 5 kilometers, I'm going to eat one of my jellies. They're long sticks of jellies. They carry around the 20 to 30 grams of carbs, and I'll be getting one of them into me. Every 10 kilometers, it's going to be a gel. It's highly concentrated. It will make me want to drink a little bit afterwards as well. And in the total in the hour, I'm going to be taking in about 75 grams of carbs. In that 10K, if one of the great people that comes out to support me holds out a basket of Haribo, I'm going to take one of them just for the fun and just for something different. And it'll be up around 80 grams of carbs. Will the body be able to process all of it? Probably not. Is there any harm in it? Not really. Right. But I've guaranteed a level that my body can process with some good nutrition and hydration. Something I didn't mention before, and carb loading is only as good as if you're fit and hydrated as well. There's a whole package to add in there. So I'll be taking on the water, the salts be coming in. Effectively, scientifically, I will have eaten enough carbs. Mentally, I only have to carry 6 items for the race. So that's brilliant. And then any other bonuses I can pick up along the route, I'll just eat them for fun and interaction, and it'll pass a kilometer,
Yeah.
If someone hands you Percy Pigs, for example, you're going to be delighted for about 2K with doing away. So will my carbs, grams per carbs, be up? Like some people eat Mars bars. I know Ozzy eats a Mars bar and a granola bar.
Sure, he's solid food during the race. I choke the thing.
He can do it. We did our 30K last week, and out came the Mars bar and still shy talking away to me. I was like, he doesn't even shut up when he's eating. But I can't do it. I end up choking on it, or I'm not a solid food kind of person. Bar a jelly, because I can just kind of leave them inside of my mouth, whereas like a big bite of a Snickers now would be just the caramel. I have
to stop to eat the rest of the thing and go for it back up and going again.
Yeah, so but that's an example of a difference in people. A Mars bar, more than enough grams for the hour. The Snickers, more than enough. It depends on your poison, and that's it. And some people actually bring little bits of nuts and brownies and stuff. I just like the gel. It's in, it's gone. The body has got what it needs. It's glycogen as quickly as possible. in the simplest form that I can get it in. And that's why gels are so popular, is because it's the simplest, quickest way to get it in. Some people add gels into their water pack as well, which you can do. I'm not. I've got a tasty orange drink from the Decathlon with all the sugars in it. I add in extra magnesium salt tablets into it, and that way I can't really taste them. But I cramp a lot, so I need to add in more salts. And if you wanted and you were worried about carbs, you could add in 2 or 3 gels into that liter of water. You're going to guarantee every sip you're getting a couple of extra grams of carbs. Now my drink will carry carbs as well because there is sugars in it as well. So, like all in all, I'd be taking in probably 80 to 90 grams of carbs an hour, which is more than enough. Absolutely more than enough.
There's nothing wrong with having that extra couple of carbs as long as you're not going to feel...
As long as you don't feel flat or crap. And like, to be honest, once you get through 35 kilometers, any food or water you take on is only really aiding your recovery then at that stage. So me meeting you at 34k and shoving a banana in your face was to get the potassiums, the grams of carbs in to start the recovery, because you were fucked anyway.
I was goose. I knew what I done. That's right. I stopped to chat to you. I was like, you're like, keep on going. I was like, I know I'm done. I will finish and I will collect that medal. But I know that today I've messed up my timing strategy. But we talk about you're about to allude into it. The end of the race comes, and obviously pints have to be had. But to be serious, I suppose, in the podcast, not serious in the podcast, because we're going to have pints anyway. That is serious about it. The nutrition after you finish, is that just getting some fluids into you? What's going on?
Well, we've started this talking about carb loading, and we'll finish it talking about carb replenishment. Okay. So it kind of makes sense. We've talked about why you carb load is to keep the glycogen stores in the muscles high, because you don't want them to run out too early. At the end of the marathon, what do you think the glycogen cells are or stores are?
Oh, they're 100%, Alice.
Yeah, probably gone.
God.
So
goosed.
I would be getting in the banana. We called out during my meal plan there that bananas carrying quite a weighty bit of carbs in it. Get yourself a croissant, get yourself a scone, get yourself whatever it is, because the scone will have the cranberries in it. It'll have a bit of sugar in it. Lump the butter on it, lump the jam on it. Eat the whole thing. Eat 2 of them. So you want to start replenishing them, but start thinking complex. So that's why the scone is good. It'll have some sugar, but it's made with the breads, the wheats, the grains. Like you want to. The banana is a good fruit source. It's soft. It's easy when you're tired. It'll digest quite easy on you. Whereas the scone, you might be able to get with a cup of tea when you come back to life a little bit afterwards.
Cup of tea.
Then you go and get yourself a pear after that, because again, you're replacing in the sugars. There's good water content in the pear, because you're going to start replacing some of them, some water into you as well. So you want to start replenishing the glycogen, and then get onto your pints, because pints carry carbs. So
totally necessary. So
yeah, but the alcohol dehydrates you. So with the genuine warning, a pint or 2, yes, is good. Anything over that, you want to really be careful. Add in a water between pints. Do you know, like the body has gone through a lot. You'll find your resting heart rate, depending on your fitness level, your resting heart rate will rest high for the rest of the night before the alcohol. Alcohol will increase that further.
Yeah, that's a stress.
So do add in a little bit of water in between, but I'm not going to lie, I'm going to have 6, 7 at Burger King at 1 o'clock in the morning. Dip at 4. So my replenishment will happen about 4 in the morning in Babylon somewhere. And there'll be garlic sauce involved. But it's a lot of information. At this stage, do you whatever has worked for you on your Sunday morning, do it. And in the day or two building up to it, maybe just think about the morning snack and the evening snack. You know, if that's the addition you're going to do with your bowl of strawberries and a couple of jellies, then you mightn't go to the 100% extra. You might go to the 75. You might go to the 50% extra.
But you feel comfortable.
And mentally, you've gone to the 100% extra because you went carb loading, and your body will do what it's going to do. So, but that's the science behind it. And that's all I can really offer on it, Sean.
It is the week of it. Like, I mean, Sunday morning, you're like, what will I have for breakfast? I mean, at this stage, you don't have an idea what you're going to have for breakfast, similar to your long runs and stuff beforehand. You're in for a long day at that stage. So there is certain things you got to kind of keep that routine, keep that pattern. But we will have a bonus episode of the podcast on Thursday morning. It's going to drop. We'll be talking about the top 10 tips we have leading up to, before, during, and after doing a marathon. I'm not going to lie. We did a similar podcast in this a couple of years ago. I know I have those top 10 tips somewhere. I haven't looked at them. We might disagree with some of them, like we talked about last week, the podcast, because we might say, you know what, after doing a couple of more marathons, a couple more runs, actually, show a different twist on that. Maybe that is something we read and when we took it on board, it didn't quite work out as a theory suggested. But that's Thursday podcast. Eric, anything else to add before we wrap up this episode of the Any Given Day podcast?
No, I think I've done a lot of talking here now.
Yeah, I know it's quite a long time.
I'm going to go make a jalfrezi for myself to eat for the next 3 or 4 days, and then that'll be me for the week.
On that note, guys, you will hear from us on Thursday morning. Best of luck with your training throughout this week, and thank you once again for listening to this week's episode. That's it for myself and Eric. Take care.
Bye.